In a moment that many believe only happens on screen, Jamie Dornan revealed such genuine, intense emotions that the audience could not take their eyes off him. His eyes were filled with emotions, like a chaotic flow of memories, regrets and unnamed desires. What made this moment even more special was Dakota Johnson's contrasting reaction. In the midst of the storm of emotions that Jamie Dornan was immersed in, Dakota suddenly stood still. Not a single movement, not a single unnecessary expression. That silence and stillness was like an invisible wall, both arousing curiosity and creating a mysterious distance. People could clearly feel the strong contrast. On one side was an exploding heart, on the other side was an unpredictable coldness. Perhaps Dakota was trying to keep her balance, or simply hiding something she did not want to reveal. It is this contrast that makes the scene a living film, where the audience can only decipher the hidden meanings behind the gazes and silences. Is Dakota Johnson deliberately keeping her distance? Or is it her way of not being swept away by Dornan's intense emotions? Whatever the answer, the moment will surely haunt fans for a long time, because it is not simply a scene, but a collision of two opposing emotional worlds. Dakota Johnson's silence, hidden feelings behind her eyes. Dakota Johnson at that time was like a living statue, cold, motionless but hiding thousands of emotional fragments inside. Outsiders only saw the incomprehensible standing still, but for those who understood her, it could be the only way to keep themselves from being swept away by the whirlwind from Jamie Dornan. In that moment, Dakota's eyes wavered slightly, as if she wanted to say something but then held back. The fear of being hurt, the fatigue of unnamed memories, all created a thick layer of silence. It was this silence that made people feel more overwhelmed than words, because sometimes, saying nothing was the strongest way to protect themselves. The closer Jamie Dornan got emotionally, the more Dakota Johnson withdrew into silence. Her heart trembled, but her mind was forced to hold on to the invisible wall. People call it standing still with pride, not because Dakota feels nothing, but because she feels too much to allow herself to express. This moment, seen from a distance, is like a wordless play. One person holds back all the intense emotions, the other holds back with absolute silence. This contrast not only surprises the audience but also leaves a lingering echo, like an ellipsis in a story that has never been closed. Climax moment: Jamie Dornan breaks the silence. Jamie Dornan's emotions were rising. He no longer had enough patience with the wall of silence that Dakota Johnson had built. His footsteps slowly approached, his eyes locked on her as if he wanted to penetrate every distance. In a trembling voice mixed with determination, Jamie spoke. "Dakota, are you going to stand still like that forever? Can you hear? My heart is screaming." The sentence rang out like an explosion in the quiet space. Dakota Johnson was slightly startled, her lips trembled, but she still tried not to say anything. That long silence made the atmosphere more tense and suffocating. But then, in a moment when she could not hold back, Jamie reached out as if to touch her hand, an action that was both bold and desperate. Dakota Johnson did not retreat, nor did she move forward. She remained standing still, but her tear-filled eyes betrayed the heart that was beating violently inside. It was a small sign, but enough for Jamie to realize that behind the silence, Dakota was also fighting with himself. In that moment, neither of them won. Only one truth was clear. Between Jamie and Dakota existed an emotional storm that no words could explain, and no silence could hide. Open ending: the untold mystery between two hearts. The moment Dakota Johnson's eyes filled with tears, time seemed to stop. Jamie Dornan was still holding her hand, hovering in the air, not yet able to touch her. For a moment, everything became so quiet that one could clearly hear each rapid breath, each strong heartbeat of both of them. Dakota finally closed her eyes, as if searching for courage. But then, instead of responding, she only took half a step back, just enough to escape the circle of emotions, just enough to keep herself safe. A vague smile appeared on her lips, beautiful to the point of heartache, but also distant enough to make Jamie feel lost. "Sometimes, standing still is my only choice." Dakota whispered, her voice as light as a breeze. Jamie Dornan was stunned. He didn't know if it was a refusal, or just Dakota's way of trying to hold on to something in silence. His hand slowly lowered, his eyes still not leaving her face. And at that moment, both of them seemed to understand that there were feelings that did not need to be expressed, but also never disappeared. People saw a Jamie Dornan filled with emotions, a Dakota Johnson standing still in conflict. But when the curtain closed, the audience still could not know what was real, what was fake. Because love, sometimes does not lie in the words expressed, but hidden in the silence that is never answered. Explosive ending, when Dakota Johnson breaks the silence. The moment Jamie Dornan was almost desperate, giving up all efforts, the unexpected happened. Dakota Johnson, instead of continuing to stand still like a cold statue, suddenly stepped forward. Her eyes lit up, a mixture of tears and determination, then her trembling but resolute hand firmly grasped Jamie's hand. "Do you think I can't hear? Every beat of your heart. I can feel it. I am silent not because I don't want to, but because I am too scared to let myself drift away with you again." That confession was like a fire that lit straight into the tense atmosphere. Jamie Dornan was stunned, not believing his ears. In his eyes, pain was mixed with hope, but clearly, that explosion had broken the wall that Dakota had built. The two hands clasped tightly, the heartbeat in unison. No more silence, no more distance. Only two people dared to face their fears, dared to admit the truth that had been hidden for so long. The audience was overwhelmed. That moment was no longer a scene, but a symbol, where love, no matter how repressed or denied, finally found a way to be expressed. After the climax, the echoes of the emotional storm. When Dakota Johnson's final words rang out, the entire space seemed to be engulfed in a fierce explosion and then suddenly fell into a deep silence. The witnesses around, if any, were stunned, no one dared to say a word. Every look directed at them carried astonishment, as if they had just witnessed a moment that went far beyond the boundaries of acting. Jamie Dornan was still standing there, his hands tightly holding Dakota's, as if afraid that if he let go, everything would be just a dream. In his eyes shone the light of someone who had just found hope again, even though there was still a vague fear in his heart. Dakota, after the tears and confession, leaned gently against him, not completely collapsed, but enough to admit that she was tired of fighting. A light breeze blew by, carrying away the echoes of tension, leaving a heavy but strangely warm atmosphere. The two didn't need to say another word, because the audience felt it. After the struggles, the distance, the silence and the explosion, Jamie and Dakota finally stood together in a real moment. However, that echo was not an end. It was like an ellipsis, where everyone wondered, tomorrow, when the lights went out, when reality returned, would they have the courage to continue holding hands, or would they let silence take it all away? Outdoors, when the public and media explode. The moment Jamie Dornan and Dakota Johnson held hands tightly did not stop in that closed space. Like a spark in a powder keg, it quickly exploded outside, becoming the focus that made the public and media unable to sit still. Just a few minutes later, social networks were in an uproar. Videos and images were spread at a dizzying speed. Fans' statuses were filled with emotions. Some were overwhelmed because they believed that the two had finally admitted what they had kept hidden for so long. Others were skeptical that it was all just a cleverly staged act. But regardless of their opinions, everyone shared the same feeling. That moment was too real, too intense to ignore. The media immediately got involved. A series of headlines appeared on news sites. Jamie Dornan and Dakota Johnson. The explosive moment that cannot be hidden. Silence. Then burst. Real feelings or just a drama? Film critics also spoke up, affirming that they had never seen a scene on screen that made the public confuse movies and real life so much. On forums, fans talked endlessly. Some people affirmed that this was the moment Dakota finally let go of her emotional wall, while others thought that Jamie was the one who dared to break the distance to touch the truth. But most of all, the global audience felt like they had just witnessed a moment beyond any script. And from here, a big question was raised. Is this explosion the beginning of a new chapter in the story between Jamie Dornan and Dakota Johnson? Or is it just a flame that flared up and quickly extinguished in the media storm?